Okay, it's an exciting year politically as well. So what, as you all know, in 131 days will be election day in terms of the midterm election. And what we would like to do to start off the conference today is to put this in a political context as to how we expect the Latino vote and Latino candidates to do in the midterm elections. It's one of the major themes of the conference. The chairs discuss some of the other major themes we'll be working on, but certainly the elections are top of mind at the moment. As we talk about 2014, let's make sure we put this in context about 2010. Because when we compare elections, it's only fair to compare a midterm to a midterm. So let's not forget what happened back in 2010's midterm elections, where the Latino vote had a decisive impact. The Democrats are in control of the Senate today because of the elections of these two senators. Senator Michael Bennet of Colorado and Senator Harry Reid of Nevada. The Latino vote was decisive in their Senator Reid's re-election campaign and Senator Bennett's bid to be elected for the first time. In that election, 6.6 million Latinos voted, and they comprised just under 7% of the Latino vote. Also important of the 2010 election were the real significant milestones that were achieved by Latinos in the Republican Party. Marco Rubio was elected to the United States Senate. The first Latina governor of any state was elected in 2010, Susana Martinez in New Mexico. First Latino governor of Nevada, and the number of Latinos in the U.S. House of Representatives more than doubled, from 3 to 7. Although it's not an election we should compare the midterm elections to, let's not forget the decisive impact Latinos had in election 2012, where 11.2 million Latinos went to the polls, comprising 8.4% of the nation's electorate, 5% increase over 2008. And we know that the Latino vote had a major impact in some of the decisive campaigns in swing states. So as we look towards 2014, let's look at how the Latino vote is continuing to increase. We are making strides. If you look at this chart that follows the trajectory of the Latino vote in midterm elections from 1994 to 2010, we see that in every single election cycle, there's been a steady increase in the number of Latino voters. That's the blue line. And it tracks very closely to the green line, which is the number of Latino registered voters. But let's keep our eye on that red line. That line is the number of Latinos who are eligible to vote. And the truth is that that population continues to grow faster than the population of Latinos who actually vote. So the challenge before us is to make sure that we engage Latinos as they enter the electorate. Every single year, 50,000 Latinos turn 18 years of age. These are U.S. citizens. So every single day, and I forget the math on this, I think it's every single day, it's something like 2,000 Latinos become eligible to vote in this country. So we have our work cut out for us. In terms of how many Latinos will show up to the polls this November, the NALEO Educational Fund released its projections earlier this year. We're expecting that 7.8 million Latinos will vote in November. Now that's an 18% increase over the 2010 numbers, and that we will make up 7.8% of the national share of all voters. So again, we're making strides. The Latino vote is growing, but I'll be honest with you. For NALEO, it is not growing fast enough. And later throughout the next 3 days, we'll be talking a little bit more about what we are doing to make sure that we engage the Latino electorate, grow our numbers, and part of the conversation this morning will be about some other initiatives that are being undertaken to also increase the Latino electorate. Placing this election in context, there's some political factors that will shape the Latino vote. It'll shape whether Latinos are mobilized to go out and vote. It'll shape how they vote and the choices they make. Now, immigration reform is top of mind, certainly to everybody in this room and to Latinos across the country. Traditionally and historically, the immigration reform has not been the #1 issue for Latino voters. And in many respects, it makes sense. If you are a voter, you're a citizen. You're born here or you're a naturalized citizen. So you don't have a personal immigration issue to resolve. But as the issue has continued to be part of the public discourse since 2000, and as more and more Latino citizens know personally a Latino who is undocumented, the importance and saliency of this issue has increased to the point where, and we'll have one of our panelists address this, immigration itself has risen to the top of the issues that Latino voters care about in elections. So one of the questions will be, what does it mean that immigration reform has not yet passed both houses of Congress? What will it mean for November 2014? And we'll be talking about that in a couple of minutes. Some other things that will be affecting the Latino vote include the situation and the condition of the Federal Voting Rights Act. The Voting Rights Act has been a powerful tool since 1965 to make sure that every single American citizen is able to vote free of discrimination. Last year, the United States Supreme Court in Shelby versus Holder declared Section 4 unconstitutional, meaning that Section 5, which required pre-clearance of any change in election practices by 9 states and a number of counties, that formula for determining who was subject to pre-clearance was unconstitutional. So as a result of the Shelby decision, Texas, Alabama, and Mississippi have imposed voter ID laws that, in our view and in the view of the evidence, have a discriminatory impact on Latinos, African Americans, and others. And Arizona and Kansas are 2 of the states that are trying to strengthen the ability to impose proof of citizenship requirements in voter registration. So the environment itself is becoming more challenging to ensure that Latinos are able to vote, motivated to vote, and vote free of discrimination. Now, a little bit about what is happening in terms of candidates in 2014. We expect that 2 of the Latino governors who were elected in 2010 have excellent opportunities to be reelected in 2014. Both Governor Martinez and Governor Sandoval are running strong campaigns for re-election. And something is happening in New England. In the state of Rhode Island, the mayor of Providence, Angel Taveras, Dominican American, is running an extremely competitive campaign for governor of Rhode Island. That primary will be in September 9th. We'll see if he makes it through the primary and then in the competition for November. There are also a number of Latinos running for the #2 offices in their states. Joe Garcia, who's the incumbent in Colorado, is up for re-election. Carlos Lopez Cantera, who was appointed in January 2014, is now running on the ticket with Governor Scott. She will be with us later at this conference, is not already in the room. Assembly member Lucy Flores from Nevada is running for lieutenant governor in her state. John Sanchez, the incumbent lieutenant governor of New Mexico, running for re-election. And a former NALEO board member and former recipient of the Edward R. Roybal Award, State Senator Leticia Van de Putte, is running for lieutenant governor in Texas. So some exciting and interesting races for the #2 spots in states across the country. Other significant statewide contests that we'll be keeping an eye on very closely in November includes State Senator Alex Padilla, who is running for California's Secretary of State. He was a top vote getter in California's primary, and that's as much as I'm going to say about his election. Former Deputy Secretary of State Nelly Gorbea, again, another thing that's happening in Rhode Island. She herself is running for Secretary of State there in Rhode Island, and we hope she makes it past the September primary. In terms of Attorney General races, Sean Reyes, who was appointed Attorney General, is running for his first term as an elected Attorney General in Utah. And a former member of the NALEO Educational Fund Board of Directors, State Auditor Hector Valdera, is running for Attorney General in New Mexico. Again, interesting and fascinating races that we're following very closely. Other key statewide races, Robert Aragon running for state auditor in New Mexico, Rick Lopez for state treasurer in that state, and George P. Bush, perhaps continuing the legacy of the Bush family, running for Texas Land Commissioner in Texas. There are, of course, the entire House of Representatives is up for re-election, all 435 seats. We expect the vast majority of the Latinos and Latinas who are running for re-election to be re-elected, but there are some very close races that are in the mix in this election throughout the country. Here in California, Representative Raul Ruiz, who defeated incumbent Mary Bono 2 years ago, is running for re-election and has a very competitive race against Assembly Member Brian Nestandi. Joe Garcia, who also ran and was elected in Florida, first Hispanic Democrat to be elected to Congress from Florida, is running against a competitive field of Republicans. That primary is August 26th, and we'll see who will be challenging him in what we expect to be a very competitive race. One of the districts in Texas has changed hands between political parties several times in the past decade. It currently is being held by Democrat Pete Gallego, and he will be facing business consultant Will Hurd in Texas's 23rd district. That's another district that both parties are investing tremendous resources in. And then also here in California's 21st district in the Central Valley, Deve Valadao is being challenged by Amanda Renteria. Again, another race that's closely being watched by both political parties in terms of the swing nature of all four of these districts. And so part of what we want to continue to see at NALEO is the growth of Latino elected officials. These are the numbers that we are publishing here at the NALEO Annual Conference in 2014. This is our record, for the record, on the number of Latinos who serve in elected office as of January 1st of this year. And here's a comparison over the past 10 years. We've gone from no U.S. senators 10 years ago to 3. The House number of members of Congress from 22 to 28. Overall, the increase has been 25% in the numbers of Latinos in elected office, from just under 5,000 to just over 6,000 Latinos serving in elected office across the country today. So that's a little bit about where we are in terms of the number of Latinos who we expect to turn out for the election.